Welcome to Prepared Leaders, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how to be an effective manager and how you can change things about your job and management. In a recent study conducted by MIT, American workers identified management and the culture they create as the reasons why they were looking for different jobs 10 times as frequently as workers who were looking for another job to get a pay increase. Good managers do exist, but even if you are lucky enough to find one, they are often stuck with poor management of their own that trickles down throughout the entire corporate structure. In an age where staff turnover is costing businesses billions of dollars a year, you might expect that companies would do their best to address this problem. But even companies like Google and Apple that do their absolute best to create world-leading working environments are still called out for their toxic leadership. It's not just staff turnover either. Management structures determine the direction of the companies. And it feels like every other week, their poor performance is the reason behind a company going under. So why do managers always suck? Well, believe it or not, this has been studied in a great depth by many businesses, and the results suggest this is not just people being angry at other people who are just slightly higher up the corporate totem pole. Managers have always been and will always be bad at their jobs. But it is possible to understand why and hopefully use this knowledge to avoid becoming a bad manager yourself. And before we continue, I'll be giving you time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell to be notified every time a new video is uploaded. And let's continue with our incompetent manager. There are some obvious issues to address. First, in a perfect world, managers would be promoted into their positions after displaying strong proficiency in the role they would be managing. Or better yet, they would be recruited because of their qualifications and experience in similar roles. This does not always happen, and nepotism, favoritism, and plain old bad hiring decisions give us managers that should not rightfully have their jobs. But this is probably not as big as a problem as people think, especially not in large companies where hiring and promotion decisions are handled by strict working procedures and not by individuals who could give the job to their useless son-in-law. Instead, one of the biggest problems is what business analysts call the Dilbert Principle, popularized by comic writer Scott Adams. It states that incompetent workers who are not bad enough to fire are put in supervisory roles to get them out of the direct workflow. This normally doesn't happen directly, but rather it happens through lateral movements that line the Dilberts up for promotions down the line. If Dilberts work in a research analyst team but consistently makes coding mistakes that slow down the work of their fellow analysts, a manager might decide to move Dilbert into a non-operational role. For example, this particular Dilbert might be put in charge of helping new employees by showing them around and teaching them how to use the company systems. This lets the proficient analyst remain on task without having to stop, fix, or teach the new employee how to connect to the office printers. A similar concept in business management is the Peter Principle, developed by Lawrence J. Peter, a high archaeologist, and published in a book of the same name. It states that good employees are promoted until they are given a job that they can no longer perform well, at which point they are no longer promoted and they remain in the position where they do poorly. If a junior analyst performs well above their peers for a few years, they should be first in line to get a team leader role if it becomes available. If they do well in a team leader role, they might get offered a project management role. But if they suck at working on deliverable projects, they won't be promoted again, and this role will indefinitely be filled by someone who is not particularly good. The Peter Principle is important for people making hiring and promotion decisions to understand because a cursory understanding of this theory would have you believe that corporate positions are simply a ladder where each rung is harder to climb than the one below it, which is, of course, simply not true. The Peter Principle also covers a unique brand of manager who is no longer motivated by promotions. These are the people that may have been motivated to go above and beyond to secure themselves a promotion or a big pay raise, but are now happy with the job and the salary that they have. They don't want to be promoted, so there's no reason for them to put in the work beyond the bare minimum to avoid termination. So far, we have only looked at the often hated middle managers in large corporations. These are the people that, statistically, most of you watching will have the displeasure of dealing with in your careers. But these issues often go right up to the very top. Founder syndrome is a theory that companies face significant difficulty when their founders maintain disproportionate control over the company's activities, often coming at the expense of the employees, shareholders, and customers. Founders are obviously very important figures in a company, and their vision is what is responsible for getting the company started in the first place. But great visionaries are often not great managers. Founders can often conflate themselves with a brand. Founders want to retain control over all elements of the business, no matter how large it gets. The founder's skills and experience play a huge part in the initial success of a company, and they often want their work precisely replicated by everyone that comes on board to assist them when scaling the business. A startup is fast-paced, and company leadership will be challenged every day with massive decisions that will determine the direction and survival of the business. Are people being paid on time? Are staff workloads being managed effectively? Are expenses being properly processed? These are all things that are essential to a healthy business. Good founders don't necessarily make good managers, and these kinds of tedious tasks are the first to be neglected by the self-proclaimed big picture. To summarize, the next step is to ask yourself why you want to be a manager. For many people, the reason is that positions where you manage people are more prestigious and better compensated. If you are in it for the money and the power, then don't be shy about it. Just be honest with yourself and admit that you are probably going to end up doing a subpar job. If you do genuinely want to do well for all business stakeholders, then the next most important thing to ask yourself is, do you have the right stuff to be an effective manager? There are things you can do to improve these skills, but there are still always going to be people that are happier keeping to themselves and working on a task and are individually good at work of their subordinates. But the principle does work in reverse too. Some of the very best managers in a company would not be very good at the operational work that their team does. They instead have the people skills to know what tasks to leave up to which people and the self-awareness to know that micromanagement is not helpful, valuable, or appreciated. The story of managers single-handedly guiding the company to success is rarely true, but you must believe that they are too. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and turn on the notification bell so you'll know when I upload new content. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in my next video.